Hey guys, so today I'd like to talk to you about being trans and feeling valid with your gender identity despite whether or not you pass. So this is something that I was discussing with my good pal Chase Raw. The reason why I started thinking about this was because recently my parents have started gendering me correctly. My mom especially, she was super against it. She wasn't very nice at all. And she never used my preferred name or pronouns despite how much I fought and I tried to get her to gender me correctly. And once I started hormones, suddenly she's asking me to correct her. She's like, you have to tell me when I get your name wrong. And I'm like, where did this come from? She would yell, she wouldn't let me talk about it, she would use the T word. It was fucking disgusting, it was awful, it was horrible. And suddenly, once I started taking hormones, she started to treat me like a man. At first, I was really happy and I felt really good. I'm like, yeah, my mom introduced me as her son. Because of testosterone now, I feel so much more valid as a man. And it's like, settle down there for a moment. I was being held back for a long time because I was waiting for my mom's acceptance. I came out as trans, told everyone that I was trans, waited for everyone to get nice and comfortable, and I said once everyone is on board, that's when I'll start taking hormones. I thought that then, once I started to change with hormones, if she was still addressing me as female, that wouldn't make any sense, right? So I had to wait for her. And then I realized if I start taking hormones and she's still addressing me as female, that's her problem, and I'm still male despite the way that she sees me, despite the way that my grandparents see me, despite the way that any family member or any other person in my life sees me. I'm male. That's when I felt ready, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to take hormones now. It's not about anyone else's acceptance as long as I accept myself. I started taking testosterone, everyone started gendering me correctly. Then I realized I don't need to be on hormones or have these people accepting me in order to make my identity any more or less valid, because I don't feel any more or less male than I did before. I feel like exactly the same person. The only thing that's changed is that people are now addressing me the way that I've always felt. You can't hold your breath for these people, and you can't wait for them to accept you and make their acceptance count for so much in making your identity valid or making you, fully trans or fully male or fully female, whatever the hell. The way that these people view you and gender you has nothing to do with your gender. I spent a lot of time fighting with my mom. I would try to be nice about it and be like, we're going to this event. It's like, hey, mom, do you mind just not addressing me at all? If you can't address me as male, just don't refer to me. I'll just sit in this little corner here. Or, Mom, do you mind slowly maybe trying to use a nickname, or please don't use my name, or when your boyfriend uses my name and treats me like a girl, it makes me really uncomfortable. I'm going to start correcting him. I just kept warning her. I'm warning you that I'm going to start making these changes and I'm going to start correcting people. Is that okay? And of course it was never okay. But then I realized I do not need to ask your permission to be male. I do not need to ask your permission to correct people. And even if I'm in a situation where I can't correct you, for instance, I don't know, I'm somewhere where I don't feel safe because I don't pass as male yet. Let's say I went to my mom's gym. She works at a gym. She took me into the changing room, but of course I had to go to the women's changing room. And when I work out, I can't wear a binder because it's just, I can't breathe. It's very dangerous. I've had some bad experiences, so I don't bind when I work out anymore. And a lot of women in there were confused because they saw this man there with a chest, and I was just like, hey ladies. But that's okay. I used to feel like in those moments where, let's say, I would have to choose to use the women's room, or I would have to choose to allow people to misgender me. That doesn't make me any less trans. That doesn't make me any less male. It's just sometimes you have to do what you have to do to survive. And now, bless, I'm on hormones, my voice is dropping, fine, cool, things are working out well, whatever. But even if they wouldn't, even if I weren't on hormones, I'm still male. When I'm at work, all of my colleagues better gender me correctly, and I'm going to use the men's room, and if you're not comfortable with that, you could piss outside. But clients who I'm never going to see again, or you get what I'm saying? It's like, you're rushing, you're working, you don't have time. I just let it slide. And I used to think that those things were invalidating, but it's okay, you're allowed to feel bad about it, whatever, but don't let that make you feel like you're any less male than some guy who's been on hormones for 2 years or whatever, someone who's post-op, or someone who passes better than you do. You are every bit that gender. You are just as valid in that gender as that other person. There's nothing that they're doing better or that you need to improve on. You do you, and that's all that matters, and you are valid. That's it. Crazy. And when I came to that realization, I came out at work and I was like, I know I won't be able to be on hormones for maybe another 2 years, but I'm gonna come out at work anyway, because I don't want to come to work and feel like I left myself at home. I didn't wait until I was on T. For a long time, I felt like I couldn't come out as trans and I couldn't do anything or feel valid in any way until I was on hormones, or until I was, fully transitioned, which, what the fuck does that even mean, right? And then I realized, no, that's bullshit. Don't let yourself feel like you can't be who you are until you attain those things. And the way that your family sees you, or the way that anyone else in your life sees you that is invalidating, don't let that invalidate you. Don't let those people define who you are. You are 100% valid just the way that you are. And a lot of it has to do with the way that we're viewed, I guess, or the way that we, I don't know how to explain this. Let's say you go onto Instagram or whatever, you go onto social media and you see all of these cis-passing trans guys, right? Everyone around them is gendering them correctly, their family's on board, everything's great, right? Rainbows flying out of their assholes. Great. Good for you. It's all good. I'm not bitter. But we need to realize that those people aren't the end result. They aren't the goals. Even though you might feel like, I wish I were you. You shouldn't have to fit that mold to be valid. And let's say, okay, for example, right now, I know in the States, there's apparently something that's gonna be passed that involves trans people not being able to use the bathroom that they feel that they identify with. That was a badly formed phrase. Anyway, essentially people will be forced to use a bathroom that aligns with the sex they were assigned at birth. Anyway, that's disgusting, but whenever I see these advertisements or sort of like these campaigns running against that to show like why it's bad or why it doesn't make sense, a lot of the times I've seen these advertisements with just like these guys who've clearly been on hormones for a long time, cis-passing, I would never know you were trans, those guys standing in a women's bathroom or in front of a women's bathroom, like, does this look right to you? Does this make sense to you? And it's like, I get that, I know, you totally, that makes sense, I know. But these advertisements, these campaigns shouldn't just be about the outside. It's not just about the outside, it's about what it does to us on the inside. And those campaigns, instead of featuring these cis-passing guys standing in front of women's bathrooms, should instead feature the names of all the kids who fucking killed themselves because people like you are passing laws like this that make our lives unbearable until we have the means to medically transition so that you could see us as the gender that we have always been. That's the problem. This is what we're being fed by society, by our own community. This is all that we see, and we need to change that. We need to be visible before hormones, before surgery. Whether or not we have those things, we are valid from the moment we say that we are. The day that I say I'm male, that's it. Ta-da, I've transitioned, it's done. And whatever steps I feel like I need to take, that's my personal journey, and that's great for me, but that shouldn't affect how much of a man you think that I am. It doesn't matter, none of that shit matters. Anyway, I'm gonna stop because I'm getting angry. I'm just making this video for everyone who's in the same position that I was in 2 short months ago. I'm realizing a lot of things now that I'm on T, now that I'm gaining this sort of like passing privilege. And there are a lot of things that we need to talk about. This is the tip of the iceberg. I just wanted to touch on this and remind you all that you are beautiful and you are valid whether or not you're on T. And I know that the wait is long. I know that it's hard. I went through it. I started hormones when I was 22. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. Have a nice day. Goodbye.